Hi, I'm Lyndsay Boggess. I'm an assistant professor in the Department of Criminology at the University of South Florida. My research area focuses primarily on communities or neighborhoods and crime. Often when we think about criminology or criminal justice, we think of things that are in the news a lot, like mass shootings or child abduction rings or serial killers. But these are relatively rare events. And what isn't rare, however, is where crime occurs and where it is geographically. So I'm interested in looking at neighborhoods and why certain neighborhoods always seem to have high crime rates despite who lives there and despite population changes. So this isn't rare. Where crime is pretty consistently located throughout a city and even throughout the United States. This interests me because I remember when I first got into my master's program and I was learning about different options within criminal justice and forensic science. I was fascinated by learning about public housing actually, and when new public housing was being developed and people were being relocated out of housing and other people were coming into housing, there just was consistently high crime in these neighborhoods. And a lot had to do with how the building was constructed, how it was laid out geographically, and where the public housing was located, and the way that it tended to concentrate poverty in segregated areas of the cities, away from public transit, away from resources such as education and jobs. And these became pretty high crime areas. And it was interesting to me to see how this happened around the country. And that if you extend it a little further, it's not just even public housing. It's that we have these concentrated, disadvantaged neighborhoods that tend to have high crime, sort of regardless of where they're at. I teach an undergraduate course on communities and crime, which is pretty different than a lot of the other courses that students at USF have. And in this course, I try to get them to go out into the actual communities, to meet people in Tampa who live in different areas, people who live in more affluent areas, like New Tampa or down to Ybor, or even Sulphur Springs or Suitcase City, different areas that have a wide array of levels of poverty, racial, ethnic composition. And I have the students go out and meet people who live there, go to community meetings, talk to police officers who patrol these different areas, and really be able to understand everything that we talk about in a book or we read about and see how it really shows up in real life and in these actual neighborhoods and how people live. I think, when we think about policing, it's often very retroactive, and that a crime has occurred and the police come and they take care of the situation, they try and find the person who offended. A lot of my research indicates that if we tried to take a more proactive step and we encouraged more community engagement and encouraged residents to get to know each other more, maybe provided them opportunities like weekend markets or other social activities, neighborhood cleanups, that the more people got to know each other, the more comfortable they'd feel, the more they would look out for each other. And this is just a very positive pro-social way to kind of control crime. And it works even better when law enforcement are actually involved too, sort of outside of a law enforcement capacity, when they're in the neighborhood getting to know residents as well and working with them to landscape or clean up parks or neighborhoods like that also. Yes, one of the things that we find when we look at neighborhoods is that strong social ties or connections, or even to some degree being able to recognize who belongs in a community and who doesn't, can really help control crime. And it sounds pretty simple, but a lot of people aren't very neighborly and they don't go out of their way to get to know other people. And when we encourage this and when we bring law enforcement into it to see that law enforcement is not a bad guy, law enforcement truly is there to help you, it's shown really positive effects in being able to control crime and even sort of signs of physical disorder and graffiti and vandalism too.